Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Real Money, Real Business podcast. I'm Michelle, and today we have Ashley and John on the show who are selling an Amazon FBA and e-commerce business on the Empire Flippers marketplace. Hey Ashley and John, welcome to the show. How are you guys today?
Hey Michelle, how's it going? All good, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you very much for making the time to come on today. I'm looking forward to learning more about your business, but before we dive in, let's go over a brief summary of it. It's an Amazon FBA and e-commerce business in the supplements niche created in February 2016. The average revenue for the business is $27,663 per month, and it makes an average of $4,445 per month in net profit. Included in this sale is an Amazon Seller Central account with 13 SKUs, employee relationships, supplier relationships, social media accounts and groups for Facebook and Instagram, trademarks, an email list with 3,400 subscribers, a G Suite account, shipping accounts, a 3PL relationship, and a primary domain in all site content and files. For everyone listening, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 56113 to learn more about this business. Or you can unlock this listing to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So Ashley and John, now let's hear from you. You guys have a really interesting and successful business in what can be a difficult space for some sellers. I'd really like to get into what makes your brand unique in a minute. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in running an online business?
Sure, no problem. So I graduated as a student in project management and then also got very much into bodybuilding, supplementation, and became a personal trainer. And all of these things kind of amalgamated into, me getting really into learning more about supplements and then feeling that I could develop something potentially better than what was on the market and what I was taking. I'll be honest, I'm very ADD, attention deficit disorder. So my memory is really bad and my concentration is really bad. So I was experimenting with different natural vitamins and minerals and herbal extracts at the time. And I didn't fancy taking the sort of pharmaceutical drugs because, I didn't want to feel sort of wired and overstimulated in that way. I wanted something that was natural and healthy that I could take regularly. So all those avenues all sort of led together to me thinking that I could come up with a formula I think people would really enjoy. And that was one of our first products that I came out with. It was a brain health and cognitive function supplement. It got really good feedback, got really good reviews, and customers were saying it really worked. And they were saying, but we would like to take some of these ingredients individually, which then led to me thinking it would be a good idea to build out a range, of different vitamins, minerals, and herbal extracts and mushroom extracts. And we've gone into all sorts of different things now. And yeah, I've been going 6 years. It's grown year over year. Very challenging, very enjoyable, very rewarding. And yeah, so I think it's time for me to move on to new challenges, and things that were a hobby have now become a primary focus for me, a new goal. And, I think a new owner could really do some wonderful things with this business. And it's been a great cash flow business. It's allowed me to travel quite extensively at the same time as running, which is just a wonderful opportunity. So I've enjoyed it, and yeah, looking forward to the future. So sorry, back over to you.
And Ashley, I was wondering, what attracted you to the Amazon FBA model? Why did you decide to go that route for selling your supplements?
It seemed to make a lot of sense in terms of just being very highly automated. Not having to find a 3PL at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey is very, very helpful, and just not thinking about that side of the business whatsoever. yeah, it's just highly efficient. It's a very easy way to get started and even to continue running the business. Like Amazon handle the majority of the logistics, and it's not that there's a lot of returns, but all that kind of stuff they do for you. And it's wonderful, and it's relatively cost effective as well compared to doing it yourself. It's not badly priced.
And while you were building this business, so this is the first online business that you've built, if I'm correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So while you were building this, I'm sure that you learned just a ton. Is there anything that stands out in your mind as something that worked particularly well for you that maybe exceeded your expectations?
The power of focusing in and doing one thing repeatedly well and then at scale. I've heard this from a lot of other entrepreneurs as well, of trying to have too many irons in the fire and trying to do too many different things and sort of being, just having your attention spread too thin. What really worked was finding one thing that really, really worked and then just putting everything into that. So for us, it was a combination of developing really good products with the customer in mind, and then obviously leveraging Amazon to get as much exposure on the platform as possible, and not worrying too much about being in stores and, Instagram ads and this and that, just honing in on the bit that makes the difference.
And was there anything that you tried that didn't work, that didn't get you the results that you were expecting to get?
Loads of stuff, plenty of stuff. We tried things like automated ManyChat sequences. I tried doing SEO myself. That wasn't successful. There's tons of stuff. And I think that's why I said that answer to your previous question about just find what works, 80-20, do more of that.
Yeah, the 80-20 rule. I've heard that one before. I think that there's something to be said too about focusing your efforts on what you are good at. And I think that, there are certain things with some businesses, you kind of touched upon like ManyChat and whatnot. I know that kind of getting into these, pushing like this SMS type marketing is really becoming a big thing right now. And some people are successful at it. Some people aren't. I suppose it's a bit like monetizing an email list. If you present this as an opportunity for a buyer who maybe knows a little bit more in these areas about how to make that work, and just sort of, I guess, as an owner too, when you're building something, realizing your own limitations and focusing on your strengths, there's something really powerful in that. And you've obviously used it to your advantage. So could you tell us, where does the majority of your traffic come from?
So we are fairly Amazon heavy. So we are leveraging Amazon's own traffic. We actually don't use too much Amazon PPC. We actually rely a lot on organic traffic. And the way in which we manage to capture so much of that is by, as I said before, creating genuinely really good products that actually fulfill what the customer wants. I think some people focus too heavily on, like review strategies or PPC and stuff like that. Whereas, we do a lot of testing, making sure that our packaging better than the other, say the number one or number two competitor. Do customers generally prefer our product? Has it got all the right ingredients? Has it not got all the stuff they don't want in it? All these kind of things that we can win by simply providing the best product. And we've had some really good success with some of our key products by just doing a really good job on that front. And they tend to stick better as well in terms of with the rankings, rather than, needing to kind of somehow bump them back up and playing that game. People will just buy and they'll rebuy and they'll tell friends because they genuinely like that product.
I find that really interesting, actually. That's something that we don't hear about very often, is the importance of product marketing. As you were saying, like your packaging, and you've really tested to see what resonates with people. So it's really refreshing to kind of hear someone go into that. I was wondering, what else are you currently doing in terms of marketing? Because you mentioned that you're not really relying on PPC very much. The ManyChat didn't work as well as you had hoped. So what are your marketing efforts right now?
I'd say one of the core pieces is we do have an email list that when we release a new product, we will put it out to the email list, and we can often get, buyers from day one who often go ahead and also review of their own accord. And having that stimulation at the beginning of a launch just builds up, it juices the algorithm in the right way. It's like a 1-2 knockout punch. We've got the great product, the great packaging, the great images, like we have copywritten listings, it's all translated really well. And then when we get the sales velocity as well, it works really nicely. So, I mean, we do collect email addresses. We do email marketing as well, like a monthly or weekly email sometimes. And that also does drive sales, but we usually drive them to our Shopify store. But yeah, in terms of Amazon, it's mostly just getting the fundamentals right.
Okay. I'm curious, why do you choose to drive them to your Shopify store rather than Amazon? Is there a strategy behind that?
We do also drive them to Amazon. We'll kind of pick and choose. We tend to collect the emails on Shopify, in terms of using pop-up boxes, and we've used various different methods over time to collect those emails and, done Facebook ads to collect emails and things like that. And then, we'll pick and choose. So say, for example, if we're doing a product launch, we'll tend to send them we'll obviously send them to Amazon. However, if we have some overstock of something, we might just do a deal and send them to Shopify. I'll do a bundle or something like that. It just allows a little bit more customizability on the Shopify.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So if you were to keep the business, what do you see as the major opportunities for growth?
So I think definitely expanding the product selection. There's so many more products that we're really excited to launch. But I think being very careful with which ones. Some Amazon-based businesses will use these keyword demand type tools, which we have used before. If we create a product for the demand, it often doesn't work as well than if we create a product for the customer. So say, for example, I won't name the product right now, but a supplement, rather than creating a generic form, which is very, very popular, if we find out which form of that supplement, because there's different, forms of vitamins and minerals, if we find out which one is the most effective, and then we actually focus on that one and the keywords surrounding that particular product, it's a little bit more niche, but it also allows us to actually that's a bit of a competitive advantage, that if we go slightly more niche, but serve the customer really well, and then we've got these customers who love our brand and love our products because they know it's good stuff. When we release it to them, if it's something that's interesting to them, they'll often go and buy it, just to try it.
No, it's interesting because you hear this with content sites a lot. They'd say, niche down and then double down on that niche. But I haven't really heard that in an e-commerce business. So that's really interesting, the way that you've been able to apply that principle to your business.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the objective. Don't get me wrong, we're probably never going to be as big as if we did generics, but then we also don't have the same degree of competition, so we can own our space much more successfully. And also the people who buy these kind of products, they're also more educated in what they're buying. So there's, rather than someone who's just going to go and, I need vitamin A, for example, they won't care about the different types. So they're just going to go on, they're going to look for the cheapest price, they're going to look for the most reviews. And it's, different to someone who's done a load of research. Go, this form is the best, this, not having this in it is really important. So they're more loyal, they're more educated, they're more, they appreciate what they're buying. The brand has more value to them when they're buying something that they're very keen on, rather than just a commodity.
Well, I wanted to ask you a bit too about your inventory, because you've got a really interesting model. I know that all of your suppliers are located in the UK, or your manufacturers.
That's correct.
And, one thing that I would love for you to touch upon too, and maybe explain a little bit more, is your products are registered with on the national databases of a few countries in the EU.
Absolutely.
I know that many people probably who are not in the supplements space are probably not aware how difficult it can be to get that recognition and get that approval to sell certain things and to make certain claims in your copy or on your packaging. It's not an easy thing to do. So I think that's really kind of a fascinating thing about your business. If you want to kind of go into a little bit more detail about that, that would be really cool.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say, I'm glad you brought this up actually, because I'd say those registrations with those European agencies are kind of an off-balance sheet asset in a sense.
Definitely.
Because, although they're not necessarily expensive to get, they're incredibly difficult and incredibly time consuming. And for someone who, let's say, is new to the space, would have a really hard time like figuring out what they need to do and who to register with, because it's just not easily Googleable information. So we've saved, the buyer a lot of time and effort in obtaining that information that we can teach to them, and we can show them exactly how to register and the different fences that they've got to jump over. And Europe can be a bit of a minefield. So having this information that we've obviously sort of gruelingly figured out over years is a huge benefit for sure.
It's absolutely an asset. And like I said, someone who is kind of entering the supplement space, I think, that's definitely not common knowledge how difficult it can be to get these things, especially with all the European regulations. Do you mind going through a little bit about your suppliers and the process that you use to get your inventory to Amazon? Because I know you use organically based products, manufactured in the UK. And I know you have a few things about that too with getting your products into the EU. You had some ideas as well for a future buyer to make things a little bit easier. So if you don't mind kind of walking us through your current process, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So we've got 2 UK-based suppliers. Well, we've got a third as a backup as well, but 2 main UK-based suppliers. They do the full sort of contract manufacture package. We just simply send them labels from a third-party label printer. They then split up the finished stock. They send a portion of it into Amazon UK. They send a portion of it into Amazon Italy, which then services the rest of Europe from there with the fulfillment network. And then we also have them send a portion of that stock to our 3PL, which is also UK based as well. We can service Amazon UK, Amazon Europe, and then the rest of the world through Shopify from those suppliers. We are currently looking for EU-based suppliers, which we're hoping to be able to hand over details as well with the sale, because it would be a benefit for the new owner to actually look at manufacturing in the EU. Since Brexit, it saves the import duty of importing our UK stock into the EU. So that's something we're going to work on for you and hopefully have that ready by the sale date.
That would be fantastic. And you are currently registered to sell on other Amazon platforms as well.
That's right. We're registered on .com. So that also makes things a bit easier for, anybody who wants to sell on .com, which is definitely a good idea. We're ungated. We have a brand registry. We've got the Amazon storefront page. We do sell at the moment, but we just simply haven't got around yet to giving it, a full power launch across the range. So there is potentially a huge benefit, like just sat there waiting to be explored by anybody who wants to go down that avenue. I highly recommend it.
And you've also got some other registrations that you're working on or that you've already completed. I know, was it Poland that you had registered with, but you hadn't started selling on that platform?
To be honest, yeah, we've got loads. We've sort of at least we're various parts of the way through registration in nearly all of the locations. There's like India, Japan, I think Indonesia recently. So we've various different stages in each location. So obviously all those accounts will get handed over as well. So that might be of interest to a buyer depending on how fast they want to grow and where they want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. At the very least, it gives them many options to explore. I don't know if you wanted to take a little bit of time to introduce John and kind of explain what his role is and get into sort of the day-to-day maintenance, what he does and what you do in the business.
Absolutely, yeah. So John is my operations manager. He is absolutely awesome. He's been with the business over probably 4 years now, maybe 4 or 5 years. And he does everything in regards to the day-to-day running of the business, from ordering stock to monitoring sales and keywords and ads and replying to customers and you name it. John is the man. He's a wonderful person and a fantastic employee. I can't give John enough praise. He's allowed me to travel 6 months of last year and just sort of check in with him on a semi-weekly basis. Really, I don't do a great deal. I just kind of check in and throw some ideas around and things like that. Really, I'll probably say over to John to kind of introduce himself and give some detail.
Wow, that's a very wonderful introduction. But thank you, Ashley. Well, yeah, as like what Ashley said, I almost do everything. For example, inventory, customer service. I also do the Facebook and Instagram posts. So whatever I can do, I will do. If I can't, I'll let Ash know and then we'll try to figure it out. But basically, if I can do it, I'll make a way and try to do it.
And you're planning to continue with a new buyer for the business.
Yeah, if the buyer would want me, then I'd be happy to stay on. If not, then good luck with the business.
I'd highly recommend them to keep John. I'd
Well,
highly
no, I think
recommend
that
it.
that makes it a really attractive business, for buyers to have somebody who really knows it inside and out and, can guide them through the transition process and really just kind of be their right-hand man. I think that's fantastic. And I'm really glad that John was able to come on and introduce himself. Do you think, especially because we are talking about, the supplements niche, do you think that there are any special skills or requirements that someone needs to have if they are unfamiliar with this niche?
I'd say, obviously, if they're familiar with selling on Amazon, that definitely helps. It's not essential. Obviously, John, again, kind of lead them by the hand, and obviously I'll be around as well to help and to teach and to hand it all over. It's not essential. You will learn very, very fast. Amazon can be complex and challenging, but so can any business. So I'd just say simply having a good, open mind, an entrepreneurial mindset, and just ready to get stuck in and learn. And like any business, really, you've got to be ready to learn and you should be perfectly fine.
And what do you think are the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
Amazon itself is regularly challenging. And by that, I mean they can do things which isn't ideal. They don't always communicate what they're going to do and when they're going to do it and why. So you might wake up one day and look at the account and Amazon have done something like block a listing or just tell you, hey, this needs to change, this label or this. It could literally be anything. And they just say, well, we're going to take the listing down until you've done it, rather than give you prior warning, which would be nice. So you've got to just kind of get on it and you've got to fix it. And, you're at the mercy of Amazon. However, obviously it comes with its challenges, but it's the number one place to sell online right now. It's over 50% of e-commerce, and I don't see that going away anytime soon. So it's a blessing and occasionally a kiss,
Yeah.
but it's worthwhile overall.
The double-edged sword. I was wondering, earlier you were talking about kind of what worked for you in the business and how you focused your energy on building it. And you kind of brought up what you had heard from other entrepreneurs. Was there anyone in particular who inspired you while you were building this business?
Yeah, there's a podcast that I used to listen to a lot when I was very first building it by a guy called Daniel Moran. He ended up building several Amazon businesses and exiting for a really big payday. And he's been quite a good mentor. I've actually had one-to-one coaching from him, on Amazon business and brand building in particular. And yeah, I recommend going and checking out his podcast, Daniel Moran. He's very helpful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Before we wrap up, if you're putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
I think, it's a bit of a cash flow machine. If you want to just buy an asset and go traveling or something, I mean, it's great for that. If you want to buy it and scale it, it's got a ton of opportunity attached to it as well, in terms of obviously with the new regions that you can expand into, in terms of the product selection that you can expand into. And then if you are sort of an amalgamator and you're in the supplement space, I think it makes a lot of sense to purchase this business because it covers the niche that it does in the supplement industry. Because you would not completely own this niche, but we control a very relevant chunk of it. So it would make a lot of sense to purchase as part of a portfolio of supplement businesses.
And is there anything else that you'd like to share that we might not have covered?
I'm here for any questions. I'd love to talk to buyers and help them out in any questions or concerns or anything, any information they want to know. I'd love to chat.
And before we finish, would you be willing to commit to a non-compete for a new buyer?
Yeah, sure. I'm looking to go into money management after this. So I've zero intention of, competing.
Completely unrelated field.
Yeah.
And how much support are you offering buyers?
Within reason, as much as they need. They're going to have John, so he's going to be able to answer a huge swathe of any questions that they're going to have. But yeah, within reason, as much as they want. I want them to feel comfortable. I want them to feel like they know what they're doing and they're in control and they've got it, So yeah, good few months, as long as they need, really.
And are you open to negotiating something like an earnout?
Because it's a relatively small sale, on this occasion I'm not. Again, because of what I want to do next, I need as much capital as possible. I appreciate buyers like it, but yeah, as I said, because of my next project, I need as much cash as possible. So unfortunately, yeah, not on this occasion.
Well, that's completely understandable. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Ashley and John. It's been a pleasure to learn more about both of you and your business.
Been a pleasure, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 56113. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. Once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.